So where do your emotional reactions go when you lose them after you've experienced narcissistic abuse? So let's start this with an example so you know what I mean. You have a narcissistic person in your life and they say they want to talk to you about something, and they start. But really they aren't talking with you about something. They're going on a tirade about you, or they're complaining about your friends, or they're complaining about something you did, or yelling at you about something you said, and they just keep going and going as they're able to do. They may even say things that are just downright mean. The narcissistic person in your life may be trying to make a point. Say things like, oh, I feel like you're never there for me. You're always working and busy with the kids' activities, and you don't seem interested in me, and you never listen when I talk to you, and I feel like you don't give a damn about me after all I do for you, and all you do is spend our money and demand more. And all this shit that they're saying, none of it's true. And it's also likely that they do not even come close if they're complaining like this to you of holding up any kind of equity in the household, right? Maybe the narcissistic person goes on to say like, oh, you say you want to go on this vacation and then have your friends come and then meet us up there, you know, after the first week. You're so damn selfish. And you listen to what they have to say. But it's hurtful, the things they're saying. A lot of what they're saying is probably untrue. But you learned long ago, as we learn in these relationships, to not fight back, so you stay quiet. But you're hurt. And if you, after having sat through this long enough, you might get some tears in your eyes. And then they notice, and they'll say to you, oh, no way, I'm talking to you, now you're making this about you? Well, which is ironic, because it kind of is about you, since they're criticizing. But what they mean is that it's their rant. And how dare you have any emotion or show any kind of reaction to what they're saying. So have you ever had anything like that happen to you? If so, you can drop it in the comments if you want. But so you having a feeling about someone coming at you, yelling, screaming, you having a reaction is in essence you being selfish and making it all about you. So remember, experiencing emotion is as natural as sneezing. We can't really stop it. We have emotions. It's what human beings do. Emotion is a signal. Emotion can be negative. It can be positive. It can feel good. It can feel bad. It can prepare us to protect ourselves. It can also lead us to relax. And sadly, starting in childhood for many children, there are skewed messages about emotional expression that children get. Boys are often taught that they shouldn't express emotion, or anger is the only one that's allowable. And there's guardrails too. You can't have too much emotion. You shouldn't have the wrong kind of emotion. Anger in general is often frowned upon in children. Sadness is treated as an emotion that makes other people uncomfortable. So you get the idea. Emotion's a very thorny space. Now, the more authentic we can be with our emotions, the healthier we are. It really is that simple. And then when you throw into the mix also that emotional regulation is a major part of being a healthy human being, having an emotion and then learning appropriate ways of expressing it. And obviously all of this, the regulation, all the rest of it, is a huge problem in narcissistic relationships. Narcissistic people are terrible at appropriately expressing emotion, at regulating it, at being vulnerable with it, and as a result, people in narcissistic relationships also have their own increasingly confusing and problematic experiences with emotion. Now, emotion tells a story on a person's face, frankly, without that person saying a word. We can look at someone's face and we can slowly watch a frown or a smile take in, a sparkling of the eyes, tears when someone is sad. We can read hundreds of subtle emotions without a person saying a word. And here's where it gets interesting and really kind of perilous. Even though narcissistic people are coming up short, very short, in the empathy department, they can actually read emotion and very well, and they're very socially attuned, though they often misinterpret the emotions they read, or they pathologize it, or they feel like it's attacking them. They are able to register these subtle shifts on a person's face. So when you are in a narcissistic relationship, you may spend lots of time trying to read the narcissistic person's moods and face, their emotions. Try to anticipate by looking at them if it's going to be a good day or not. Are they angry or not? Is it going to be, is the evening going to go okay? You actually spend so much time trying to read theirs that you may lose track of your own. So you're being very careful in the relationship. You're often trying to study the narcissistic person to be prepared for what kind of day it's going to be. And at the same time, they're probably also noticing your emotions. And the whole thing is quite distorted. Because in fact, if two people who are actually healthily attuned to each other's emotions, not in a paranoid or anxious way, but in a healthy way, then that's actually the core of a healthy relationship. But that is not what's happening in a narcissistic relationship. This is instead something that feels like a game of espionage, making sure that you're safe and them scanning you, but they are looking at you and construing you in sort of a paranoid manner to make sure that you aren't showing emotions that they aren't okay with, right? So this takes us to a major emotional issue that often arises in narcissistic relationships, which is what happens when you actually have a visible emotional reaction to something that the narcissistic person is saying or doing. Perhaps the narcissistic person says something that hurts you. And like I said, that hurt registers on your face, or maybe tears come to your eyes. You can't even stop them. Maybe the narcissistic person or a narcissistic group of people say something that angers you, and that anger registers on your face. But more often than not, the emotion that is registering across your face, the thing that they're going to notice is likely to be intense sadness or hurt. And this is where it gets very messed up. The narcissistic person, very likely what you're reacting to, especially if it's with tears or hurt, they're likely sharing something, saying something in a hurtful way, criticizing you, giving you some form of mean feedback, anything like that, right? And like a normal person, you have a reaction to that. Especially because the mean jabbing really never ends in a narcissistic relationship. It's sort of a constant. You may even try like hell to control that reaction. You don't want them to see your tears. You try to swallow the tears. You kind of look back so those tears drain back in your eyes. You make some excuse about having allergies as that sort of glistening thing happens in your eyes. Try to smile through your hurt reaction, whatever it is. But it's clear. And you know damn well that the more you try to control the reaction that is coming up on you, the more that it comes up on you. Now, the narcissistic person really wants to emotionally pummel the other person in these conversations, but not have them react. They may, however, be open to you yelling, and then a lot of yelling back and forth, and it getting to be an escalating, screaming argument, so they can also say, look, you're an unhinged asshole too. And if you don't like conflict, you're not going to go there, right? But when this happens, when your emotional reaction to being attacked or criticized or lied to is normal, things like tears or sadness, you are told that you're being egocentric and selfish. Oh, you're making it about you. And that means that that's what you learn, and it becomes ingrained in you that having a feeling or having a reaction to anything is selfish. And that you learn then, when a person emotionally abuses you, that you have to stoically sit there and take it. So you may wonder, why does this happen in these interactions? Well, there's a few reasons. At the time the narcissistic person is yelling at you or criticizing you or gaslighting you, who the hell knows what triggered them, right? Frankly, at most times, who the hell knows what triggers them? But to them, you're not a person, right? You're an object. So it's kind of like human stuff, like emotion is not supposed to be coming out of you, least of all emotion that they're not interested in. Secondly, your negative emotions or sadness can actually bring up shame for the narcissistic person, because your tears are kind of showing this idea that they're being bad, they're not being nice. And remember, narcissistic people actually think of themselves as really nice, fair, kind people. So that brings up shame and anger, because your tears may suggest that they're being unreasonable or awful, and that's not how they want to be viewed, so they attack you some more. Also, they want to be able to have their rant, their temper tantrum, and then for it to all be out of them. And most of you have watched that happen in one of these relationships. Narcissistic people rage and scream and yell and manipulate and gaslight. The people around them are hurt and harmed. And then they're done. It's like they threw up. And now they're relieved. And so now they kind of act like nothing happened. While everyone around them, or you, feel hollowed out and scared. And then they'll be like, oh gosh, stop making such a big deal about it. It's over. Like, I'm not doing that anymore. And that's on the heels of you being told that when you were crying or upset, that you were making everything about you. What do you do about this? Folks, there's no fix here. Realistic expectations and the radical acceptance that this is going to happen in these relationships can prepare you, can make it a little less jarring or startling or surprising. And it will suck, and you can't stop feeling. So yeah, you're going to feel hurt. I personally navigate this in narcissistic relationships I still have to maintain. And this is where that idea of multiple truths matter. This is a them thing. Their behavior is not okay. I understand why they're behaving like this. It hurts me, and I'm struggling, and that it makes sense to be hurt when someone behaves like this. And while understanding the narcissism piece helps, it doesn't make any of this more comfortable while it's happening in real time. But when you are told that your normal reactions, like having tears to hurtful words, means that you are making something about you, well, that's a crock of shit. The healthy emotional dance that two people, or more than two people, can have with each other means that emotion gets to be expressed on both sides. And while emotional conversations may not always be easy, when there's healthy people involved, they can happen with both people feeling heard and neither person feeling silenced. However, this cannot happen in a narcissistic relationship. Should you show emotion, prepare to be shamed, humiliated, shut down, and told that you're selfish. Good luck, and thanks again.